Mukesh D. Nashwar was born in a small town in India. Nestled amidst lush green fields and winding roads, this town was a place where everyone knew each other, and life moved at a gentle pace. The simplicity of the town was both its charm and its limitation. He was a bright and curious child. From a young age, Mukesh showed an insatiable thirst for knowledge. He would spend hours reading books, asking questions, and exploring the world around him. His parents often marveled at his curiosity and encouraged his academic pursuits. Nashwar excelled in his studies and dreamt of a future filled with possibilities. He envisioned himself as a scientist, an engineer, or perhaps even a writer. His teachers recognized his potential and often spoke of the great things he could achieve. His academic achievements were a source of pride for his family and the entire town. However, as he grew older, a harsh reality began to cast a shadow over his aspirations. The transition from childhood to adolescence brought with it new challenges and insecurities. Mukesh began to notice that he was not growing as tall as his peers. Nashwar was shorter than his peers. This difference in height became more pronounced with each passing year. While his friends shot up in height, Mukesh remained the same. It was a stark contrast that did not go unnoticed by those around him. At first, it was just playful teasing. His friends would make light-hearted jokes about his height, and Mukesh would laugh along, not thinking much of it. It was all in good fun, or so it seemed. But as time went on, the constant reminders of his height started to chip away at his confidence. The jokes became more frequent and less playful. Mukesh began to feel the weight of their words, and the laughter that once seemed harmless now felt like a spotlight on his insecurities. The world seemed to be designed for taller people. Everyday tasks that were simple for others became challenges for Mukesh. Reaching for items on high shelves, seeing over crowds, and even participating in sports felt like uphill battles. He felt overlooked, his potential underestimated. In group activities, he was often the last to be chosen, not because of his abilities, but because of his height. This sense of being sidelined extended beyond the playground and into the classroom and social gatherings. The boy who once dreamt big started to doubt himself. The dreams that once seemed within reach now felt distant and unattainable. Mukesh began to question his worth and his place in the world. His height became a source of deep insecurity. Every glance in the mirror was a reminder of what he lacked. The confidence that once radiated from him was now replaced with self-doubt and hesitation. Mukesh's journey was just beginning, but the road ahead seemed fraught with obstacles. Nashwar entered adulthood carrying the weight of his perceived inadequacy. He was acutely aware of the societal biases against short stature. He saw how height influenced first impressions, career prospects, and even romantic relationships. He felt trapped, his physical stature dictating his place in the world. Despite his inner struggles, Nashwar refused to let his height define him. He pursued a degree in engineering, determined to prove his worth through intellect and hard work. He excelled in his studies, his sharp mind a testament to his capabilities. Yet the nagging feeling of being different, of being less than, lingered. One day, while browsing through medical journals at a library, Nashwar stumbled upon an article that would change his life. He had always been an avid reader, especially when it came to medical advancements. The library was his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself in the pages of groundbreaking research and innovative techniques. On this particular day, as he flipped through the pages of a well-respected medical journal, something extraordinary caught his eye. It discussed groundbreaking surgical techniques used to correct bone deformities. The article was filled with detailed illustrations and comprehensive explanations, making it clear that this was no ordinary piece of writing. It was a treasure trove of information, meticulously compiled by experts in the field. Nashwar could feel his heart racing as he delved deeper into the article, absorbing every word with a sense of awe and wonder. The article described how doctors could lengthen limbs by carefully breaking and then gradually separating the bone, allowing new bone tissue to grow in the gap. This process, known as distraction osteogenesis, was a revolutionary technique that had the potential to change lives. The medical animations and detailed images provided a clear visual representation of the procedure, making it easier for Nashwar to grasp the concept. He was fascinated by the precision and care required to perform such a delicate operation. The idea struck Nashwar with the force of a revelation. It was as if a light bulb had gone off in his mind, illuminating a path that he had never considered before. He could feel a surge of excitement coursing through his veins, a sense of possibility that he had never experienced. This was more than just an article, it was a beacon of hope, a glimpse into a future that he had always dreamed of but never thought possible. Could this be the answer to his lifelong struggle? Nashwar had always been self-conscious about his height, a source of insecurity that had plagued him for as long as he could remember. He had tried everything from special diets to rigorous exercise routines, but nothing seemed to work. The idea that there might be a medical solution to his problem was both thrilling and terrifying. He couldn't help but wonder if this was the breakthrough he had been waiting for. Could he use this medical marvel to increase his height? The thought was almost too good to be true. He imagined what it would be like to stand taller, to look people in the eye without feeling self-conscious. The possibilities were endless, and the more he thought about it, the more determined he became. This was his chance to change his life, to overcome the limitations that had held him back for so long. The thought ignited a spark of hope within him. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in years, a sense of optimism that filled him with energy and purpose. He could see a future where he was no longer defined by his height, where he could pursue his dreams without the constant nagging doubt that had always been a part of his life. This was his moment, and he was determined to seize it. It was a radical concept, fraught with risks and uncertainties, yet Nashwar couldn't shake off the feeling that he had stumbled upon a life-altering possibility. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, filled with obstacles and difficult decisions, but for the first time in his life, he felt a sense of clarity and purpose. This was his chance to rewrite his story, to take control of his destiny and create a future that he could be proud of. With a newfound sense of determination, Nashwar set out to learn everything he could about the procedure, ready to embark on a journey that would change his life forever. Fueled by newfound determination, Nashwar embarked on a mission. This was not just any mission. It was a deeply personal quest that had been brewing in his heart for years. Ever since he was a child, Nashwar had felt the weight of his height, or rather the lack of it. He had always been shorter than his peers, and this had affected his confidence in ways he couldn't even begin to describe. But now he was ready to change that. He devoured every piece of information he could find about limb-lengthening surgery. He studied medical textbooks, contacted orthopedic surgeons, and researched hospitals. His days were filled with reading dense medical literature, and his nights were spent on forums and websites dedicated to the procedure. He reached out to people who had undergone the surgery, seeking their advice and learning from their experiences. Nashwar was relentless in his pursuit of knowledge, knowing that the more he understood, the better his chances of finding a doctor who would take him seriously. He faced rejection at every turn. Doctors dismissed his inquiries, often without even a second thought. They sent him curt emails or simply ignored his calls. The few who did respond were skeptical, questioning his motives and the necessity of such a drastic procedure. They warned him of the risks, the pain, and the long recovery period. Some even suggested that he seek therapy instead, implying that his desire to change his height was a sign of deeper psychological issues, questioning his sanity for even considering such a drastic procedure for cosmetic purposes. Undeterred, Nashwar persisted. He knew that his desire was not just about vanity. It was about reclaiming his self-esteem and living a life free from the shadow of his insecurities. He was willing to face the criticism and the skepticism because he believed in his dream. He believed that he deserved to feel confident and proud of his appearance. He knew the risks involved but was unwilling to accept defeat. The potential complications, the pain, and the long recovery period were daunting, but they were not enough to deter him. Nashwar spent countless hours weighing the pros and cons, imagining the worst-case scenarios, and preparing himself mentally for the journey ahead. He was determined to see this through, no matter what it took. He believed in the possibility of a future where he could stand tall, not just in height, but in confidence and self-assurance. He envisioned himself walking into a room without feeling the need to shrink into the background. He imagined the freedom of living without the constant reminder of his perceived inadequacy. This vision kept him going, fueling his determination and giving him the strength to keep pushing forward, free from the constraints of his perceived inadequacy. He dreamed of a life where he could fully embrace his potential, unburdened by the insecurities that had held him back for so long. This dream was his guiding light, leading him through the darkest moments of doubt and rejection. He just needed to find a doctor willing to take a chance on him and his unconventional dream. Nashwar knew that somewhere out there was a medical professional who would understand his plight and see the determination in his eyes. He continued his search, reaching out to clinics and hospitals around the world, never losing hope. His journey was far from over, but with each step he grew closer to finding the one person who could help him turn his dream into reality.